A very beautiful Thursday morning to you viewers. You are on to the Superscreen TV News at 10. I am Nkiruka Ibe. And looking at the stories and the reports making the rounds, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has again attacked the federal government, stating that the current administration is incompetent and incapable of addressing the killings and poverty in the country. Obasanjo said the administration is confused and has reached the end of its tether while the nation is left perilously to drift. This was in a letter read on his behalf at a one-day national summit on security and killings in Nigeria, convened by the Northern Elders Forum, Yoruba Socio-Cultural Group Afenifere, Ohaneze Ndigbo, and Pan-Niger Delta Forum in Abuja. The former president said the government has been wringing its hands and giving one outrageous and unacceptable justification after the other. Obasanjo, who was represented by a former governor of Osun State, acknowledged the elders to continue with the dialogue, which he said is necessary to clear the misgivings and outdated ideas and concepts. The special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, said conflicts between herdsmen and farmers in Nigeria is becoming more sophisticated and deadlier. This came as 8 suspected kidnappers of the Chibok schoolgirls and 14 other makers of improvised explosive devices for the Boko Haram, including 3 commanders, were arrested and paraded at Borno Police Command in Maiduguri. Chambers, who is head UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel, in a report presented to the UN Security Council, said the violence was a major security threat to the region, warning that it risked changing into terrorist attacks. He said in the Lake Chad Basin, the gains made by the Nigerian Armed Forces and the Multinational Joint Task Force has not stopped Boko Haram from remaining active in the region. The Senate has declared vacant the seats of 2 deceased lawmakers. The vacant seats are that of Mustafa Bukar of Katsina North Senatorial District, who died on April 4th, 2018, and Ali Wakili of Bauchi South Senatorial District, who died on March 17, 2018. However, the seat of Joshua Dariye, a senator representing Plateau Central Senatorial District, was not declared vacant despite the fact that he has been sentenced to 14 years in prison by a federal high court for fraud. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Mahmoud Yakubu, said the House of Representatives had also declared vacant the seats of the late Umar Jibril of Lokoja Federal Constituency, while Obuduwan State Constituency of Cross River State had also been declared vacant. Yakubu also said by-elections will be conducted within the next 30 days. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has issued a certificate of return to the winner of the governorship election in Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi. INEC National Commissioner Solomon Shaibu presented the certificate to the governor-elect amid a crowd of supporters at the Commission's headquarters in the state capital, Ado-Ekiti. Fayemi commended the electoral umpire and security agencies for their role during the Ekiti gubernatorial elections, adding that serious governance has started for him. A coalition of domestic and international election observers accredited to observe the July 14 governorship poll in Ekiti State says the election fell short of global best practices and electoral standards. The observers include Center for Credible Leadership and Citizens Awareness, Justice and Equity Organization, Nigeria International Republican Institute, United States of America and Patriotic Women Foundation, as well as other bodies from the African Unions, among others. They faulted the deployment of 30,000 policemen for the election, arguing that the conduct of some of the security operatives and unwholesome practices of vote buying largely marred the electoral process. They also said the election was characterized by ballot box snatching, sporadic shootings, as well as intimidation, oppression and forceful influence of electors' free will, among others. Ekiti State Governor Ayodele Fayose has again accused the police of continuous intimidation of himself, his family, and Ekiti workers. The governor, who disclosed this in a press release by his chief press secretary, Idowu Adelusi, said the police has kept a permanent surveillance over the government house. Fayose pointed out that if the security forces belong to all Nigerians and not President Muhammadu Buhari and the All Progressive Congress APC, they would not be biased in their blatant manner. He said he will stand on his feet until every injustice is upturned and the freedom and liberties of his people are restored. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it will announce the date for the conduct of by-elections for vacant seats in the National and State Assemblies on Friday. Chairman of INEC Mahmood Yakubu made this known during the Commission's meeting with its resident electoral commissioners in Abuja. Yakubu said the date to be announced would be for all the by-elections in Bauchi South and Katsina North Senatorial Districts, Lokoja Konton Kafa Federal Constituency, Kogi and Obudu State Constituency in Cross River. You will recall that the Commission had on Friday announced receipt of formal notification on the vacancies on the National Assembly and State House of Assembly. And now, ahead of the 2019 election, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says the continuous voter registration exercise will be suspended from August 17, 2018 till after the 2019 general elections. The Commission, however, said the time for registration and collection of PVCs will now take place from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. The Commission further stated that the distribution of cards and registration of new voters will no longer take place on weekdays only, but will now hold on weekends also. The statement stressed that the CVR exercise will take place between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. as obtains presently. A bill for an act to amend the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission Act for effective monitoring of revenue accruals and disbursement has passed second reading at the House of Representatives. The bill, which was sponsored by Uzoma Kem Abento, seeks to aid the Commission in performing its statutory functions optimally. Leading debate on the bill, Nkem Obonta said when passed, it would empower the Commission and put revenue generation in proper perspective in line with relevant sections of the Constitution. He pointed out that, however, the Commission is not funded well enough to carry out its duties effectively. One of its major functions is monitoring revenue accruals, adding that it was a field work. The lawmaker said that the monthly Federal Accounts and Allocation Committee meeting for June had not held because revenue generated by Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC) was not properly accounted for. Benue State Governor Samuel Otom has failed to attend a peace meeting called by the leadership of the All Progressive Congress APC. Report says Deputy National Chairman of APC Lawal Shaibu had invited Judge Akume and Otom to Abuja for the urgent meeting. However, only Akume was at the meeting, which lasted for about 2 hours. Shaibu, who was mandated by the party to deal with the situation, said the party is eager to ensure reconciliation. The peace meeting followed Otom's announcement that he is no longer with the ruling party APC. And now we'll go on a quick break to bring you business-related reports. Stay with us.
Before they come, they're supposed to, give us some information, notice, at least maybe a week or so. There was nothing like that.
Hunger is everywhere in Nigeria. People are dying every day, but Nigeria government are keeping quiet. Housemen are killing people. Why?
It's not what we expected because of these old men that are leading us, and you people know, you are aware that these people are not the right people to lead us. These kind of people that are leading us here are people of black mind. They just care about themselves and their family.
You are fighting my village. Let me use glass. If I call it use glass, I'm not to mistake. The other place where they build a shop, call it plaza. Each shop got 4 million naira, which I don't have the money, so I have to leave.
If you plan to get a tribal mark, it takes a lot of pain, but after some time, you enjoy it. No, we experience hold up now. during the construction time. Then after some time, we start enjoying it.
The way they are doing the construction is too slow. It's too slow. The construction is too slow. They should stop the construction and make sure people go into their businesses and do their businesses.
You're welcome back. Now on business. The House of Representatives has mandated the Committee of Banking and Currency to investigate the black marketing of mint naira notes on the streets and its unavailability in the banks. The lower chamber also urged the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, to commence immediate withdrawal from all banks such mutilated notes from circulation and replace them with new notes, especially the 100 naira notes. This was equal to a motion sponsored by Adokoya Adeshegun Abdul Majid, who noted that the naira is greatly losing its value in the international market and facing a serious war within the country.
Worried that bacteria naturally breed and live in dirty environment and objects. Hence, dirty naira notes could pose serious health risks as they have been found to contain pathogenic parasites and bacteria and are therefore sources of infection as well as potential carriers of communicable diseases. Also worried that diseases such as nosocomial infections, human influenza virus, hepatitis A virus, and others have been found on some of these dirty naira notes. Aware that as these notes stayed longer in circulation, they gathered dirt from one hand to the other.
Abdel Majid also expressed worries that diseases such as nosocomial infections and human influenza have been found on some of these dirty notes. The Green Chamber therefore mandated the Committees on Legislative Compliance and Banking and Currency to ensure strict compliance. And still talking on the Central Bank of Nigeria says it has recovered over 665 billion naira from commercial banks in the country for wrongful deductions and charges from customers' deposits and other transactions in the last 6 years. The Acting Director, Corporate Communications CBN, Isaac Okorafor, disclosed this on Wednesday during a two-day fair in Asaba. Okorafor explained that the recovery was made between 2012 till date, stressing that the funds had since been returned to customers who complained of wrongful charges and deductions by commercial banks. Okorafor added that hawking of various denominations of the naira is an offense punishable under the CBN Act of 2005 and warned that the Apex Bank would not tolerate the breach of its act. He called on those involved, particularly its staff members, to desist from the practice as they would be dismissed if caught. Minister of State for Aviation Hadi Sariki has unveiled the name of Nigeria's national carrier as well as the logo at the Farnborough International Air Show in London. Sarika, who disclosed this during the unveiling, said the national carrier is Nigeria Air. He said the national carrier will be private sector-led and driven, stressing that the Nigerian government will not own more than 5% of the new carrier. However, he further said that the government is still in talks with aircraft providers. And on to oil and gas sector, the Senate has launched an inquest into alleged irregularities in the ongoing oil and gas lease renewal on the alleged massive loss of government revenue. This followed the motion sponsored by Senator representing Ondo Senatorial District, Omotayo Alasodura, who said the Senate's Committee on Petroleum Resources has been inundated with a plethora of petitions and complaints of multiplicity of irregularities surrounding the ongoing renewal of oil and gas leases since December 2017.
Senate further observes that the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources have deliberately, willfully and brazenly decided to depart from the subsisting legal framework and due process mandated by extant law for the renewal of all leases. Senate is concerned that the irregularities being perpetrated by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources in the ongoing lease renewal process is capable of denying government revenue in excess of $10 billion as a result of illegal discounts and rebates in the process of lease renewal. Senate is further concerned that the Department of Petroleum Resources has willfully and deliberately refused to provide the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources upstream with relevant information and data.
What this parliament can do is, for once and for all, to bring the minister to make a clarification about the actions he has taken. $10 billion is no small amount of money. And I'm of the belief that if we can get to the root of this matter, it will also open other kind of worms in the petroleum sector. This motion opens the whole process as it is vague and very unclear. So I believe that our intervention here should be in such a way that we must do everything possible to open up the oil industry as the central focus of our Nigeria's economy.
Nigeria has enough law in their statutes to take care of illegalities. This House, every day here, we come across people who have violated the systems and there's no sanction applied. As long as you don't apply sanction and no consequence, it will continue. NNPC is the bedrock of corruption in this country. We know that. And there's no question about that. We've seen many cases of that, even in public accounts. But if you continue, the renewal is the bottom line where people can make a lot of money from. But you can't continue to torture the country. And at the end of the day, the minister himself will refuse to come. If you call the minister to come, must come and give a quality argument and support system that the reason why you take those actions. Because I know many people who are complaining their licenses have been revoked without due causes. Others who are not deserved are being renewed. We can't continue playing this way.
Reacting, Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu appealed to the regulating agencies and enforcement agencies to wake up to their responsibilities in ensuring that the right things are being done, while other lawmakers suggested an all-inclusive investigation into the matter.
One of our major problems is the issue of enforcement and regulations, because we have sufficient rules, to guide us in almost all sectors. So I just want to appeal to regulatory agencies and enforcement agencies to wake up to their responsibilities in order to ensure that the correct things are done in this country, irrespective of who is involved. And assure that now that we are taking up this matter, that should be a good way to start, or at least to continue to ensure that we put our people on the right path of not only transparency, but enforcement of rule of law, including enforcement of existing laws, and then regulatory agencies ensuring that the correct things are being done. Mandate the Senate Committee on Petroleum Resources upstream to investigate all issues related to the ongoing lease renewal being undertaken by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and the Department of Petroleum Resources, and to report to the Senate the anomalies in the ongoing lease renewal process and identify appropriate measures to correct the said anomalies. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Away from oil and gas and to national development, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has inaugurated the Boa Cement and Coal Power Plants built at the cost of $350 million, estimated at 107 billion naira in Sokoto State. The cement plant, situated in Kalabina, Sokoto State, has an installed capacity of 1.5 million metric tons per annum, while the coal power plant is a 32 megawatts multi-fuel captive plant capable of generating more power than what the entire Sokoto State currently generates, according to the chairman of Boas Group, Abdul Salamad Rabiu. In his remarks, the Vice President said Nigeria, which currently produces over 40 million metric tons of cement per annum, was the largest producer of the commodity in Africa, and that the Boa Cement Plan will further consolidate the federal government's efforts to be self-sufficient in cement production and a net exporter of the product. He stressed that the investment by the firm in the plant and others like it were a clear demonstration that the country has vast capacity and potential for profitable investments. And on to debt management, the federal government says it made 343.05 million naira from sales of savings bond in July. The Debt Management Office, who disclosed this on its website, shows that 79.98 million naira was allotted for July 2020 at 10.48% and 263.06 million naira allotted at 11.48% for July 2021 papers. According to the results, the sales were made after 288 successful subscriptions. The bond issuance is part of the federal government's program targeted at the lower income earners to encourage savings and also earn more income compared to their savings accounts with the banks. And now we'll go on a quick break and bring you sports and foreign related stories. Please stay with us.